What's up, guys, and welcome to the 69th Xamarin Android tutorial. So this is going to be the part where we start doing some fun stuff and start, grabbing some data from the Facebook user and displaying it to them, and just kind of give you guys a feel of displaying the data and grabbing the data and kind of setting up the profile tracker, which we'll get into right now. But we have a little app set up. Get rid of the login manager, and we're just using the Facebook button. And you can see as when you log in, it'll automatically populate data dynamically depending on your information, and it will do so as long as you're logged in. It'll populate this stuff and it'll track it and listen to your profile. And even when you come back to it, because when you do come back to it, you can stay logged in, and what it'll do is it'll now check to see if you're still logged in, and then of course handle that accordingly, and then populate the data automatically when you start the app back up. All right. So one thing I do want to note, guys, is if you this is using probably cached stuff. So what you want to do is, if you are debugging with Xamarin, you want to come down here into Tools, Android Settings, and you want to check that box. Okay, preserve application data cache on the device between deploys, because if not, it'll reset the application's cache every time, and it may not work correctly. So make sure that box is checked. All right, and just a little note there. Hopefully you already have it checked, but I'll usually just keep it checked just to make sure that I never forget that that's maybe a reason why, sometimes it might kind of get you hung up on that. But this is what we're going to be working on in this video. All right, guys, let's get this going. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come into the onSuccess method, and this is where a lot of the action is going to happen when we log the user in. However, there is one caveat, and that's what this only gets called when the user logs in, and only when they log in. So when they come back to the app and they're already logged in, this won't get called. So we'll have a profile that has no information, because if we do all of this stuff here, none of it gets called. So what we need to do is we need to set up a profile tracker. And a profile tracker, what that does is you guessed it tracks the profile for any changes, and it updates the profile as long as we actually subscribe to an event. So what we're going to do now, this is going to be the way I'm going to set it up, and I think it's going to be the best way to set it up for Android Xamarin. Is the first thing we want to do is we want to actually come down here. We want to make a class. All right, we're going to have a internal class inside of here. So what we'll do is inside of here, we'll just do a public class, and we'll call it my profile tracker. And of course, that's going to inherit from profile tracker. We hold control dot, we're going to override, and we're going to implement one method, and that's going to be on current profile change. And just to name this a little better, we're going to do old current, doesn't make sense, old profile, and we're going to do new profile. So the new profile is going to be the one that we really care about a lot, and the old profile is going to be the one that is changing. So this is could be null in the case that there is no old profile. It could be just old profiles, there wasn't ever one, and a new profile, there is a new one, or if it ever changes or anything. So this is basically a listener for the profile. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to actually create a event that will actually invoke any events, any methods that are subscribed to it. It will invoke it, and then the functions that are subscribed to it will listen and do things accordingly. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's make a public event. So we'll do event handler, and then we're gonna make our own event args. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. So inside of also we're gonna make another class. Okay, so we're gonna have it called profile. Let's see, on profile changed event args, and that's going to be, of course, going to be from the profile. These arguments will be used. So what's going to happen is we're going to have basically just one field in here, and it's going to be a profile. So let's go ahead and we'll do a public, and it's going to be of profile type, and then we'll do m profile. And then of course we need to make a constructor for this. So we'll do a public on profile change event args constructor, which takes in a profile, of course, profile, and m profile equals profile. So this is going to initialize it, and then we'll be able to grab from here. All right, so that's pretty simple. And what we're going to be doing over here is going to be invoking this event. Okay, so let's now that we have our event args, what we can do is we can have our event. So we'll do event handler, and we'll do on profile changed event args, and we'll do m on profile changed. Something like that should work. And then inside of here, of course, when the profile changes, what we'll do is we will call it. So we'll do m on profile change. If it does not equal null, or in other words, if there is something subscribed to it, only if there is, then we want to invoke. And we can do this, and then new on profile change event args, which will call our constructor that we just made, which calls for one profile, and we'll do new profile. We'll send it the new profile, and that should work just fine. All right, so I hope that makes sense, guys. We're gonna have a profile tracker. This gets called internally by the Facebook SDK. All right, so we don't call this explicitly. This will get called at some point, and you guessed it, when the profile changed, and then we will call our own event, which we subscribe to wherever we want, so to listen in on any profile changes. Alrighty, so if we come over here to our main activity, what we'll do is we'll actually instantiate a profile tracker. So we'll do my profile tracker, and we'll call it m profile tracker. And then let's do it down here. We'll do m profile, wrong one, equals new my profile tracker. So that'll instantiate it. And then what we'll do is we will start, wrong one again. So we'll start tracking. So we'll do start tracking, which means, in other words, start listening to the profile. Alrighty. And here we can, down over here, what we'll do is we'll override on destroy, which is when the activity gets destroyed. What we'll do before we destroy it, we will do m profile tracker, and we'll do stop tracking. So we'll stop tracking and stop listening. So we will have to start listening and stop listening in each activity that we go to, which in this case we're only working with one activity, so this should suffice. All right, guys, so we have our tracker now. We have a listener that's listening on the tracker. So now we need to have a function that subscribes to it. All right, so what we can do is we can come down here, and then we can do m profile tracker, and we can do m on profile change plus equals tab, and now this method will be called with our arguments, which, remember, carries the profile that we created, which is this guy right here. And we were able to do what we want with it. All right, so let's go ahead and hold off on doing any sort of C# code now. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to, let's go ahead and get rid of the login. Remember that if you watched the previous videos, there was two ways to log in. One was a login button, and another was a login manager. So we're going to keep the login button, and the login manager, I'm just going to go ahead and comment out. So it's still there, but that way we can sort of get a grip on what we're actually using, since we're only going to use one. And this is also for the login manager. This is for the button that we created. So we'll go ahead and comment that code out as well. All right. Another shorthand trick is, it's kind of nice, is if you hold Control K and then C. So Control K, hold still Control, and then C, and then it'll comment. And then the same thing, instead of C, U will uncomment your block of code that you have highlighted. So just a little helpful tip in Visual Studio. So now if you want to come back over here, and then we'll actually just go ahead and comment out our custom button, just so that it's not in the way. Since we're not using it, we don't want to render it, right? And that will do just fine. Just kind of format that. All right, so we got rid of that button. So now we just have a login button. And just to make a little cleaner, we'll go ahead and change the background color of this to my favorite color, E2, E2, E2 for hex value. And okay, so we're looking pretty good. So now what we need to do is actually, we need to come back into the main AXML file, and we're gonna make a text view. We're gonna make three: first name, last name, and then we're gonna do the name, which is gonna be the username. So we're gonna make 3 text views, and let's go ahead and do that below this block of markup. And let's do a text view, and then we'll do layout. Actually, the first thing we want to do is the ID. So do app plus ID, txt, and we'll do first name. And then we'll want to do a layout width, which we will just wrap content. And then we'll want to do a height, which we also will do a wrap content. And then we'll do a text value, which just to get a good look of what it's all about, what it's actually going to be for, we'll do text, and then we'll do text color equals, let's do 333, and then we'll add some padding to it, padding 5dp, close it off, and let's see how that's looking. We get nothing there. That's great. Love to see that. And let's see if there's any kind of a weird error going with that. Let's come over to the document outline. Okay. All right, come back over here, and really bad you know, typos there, so sorry about that. And wrap content, not wrap content, whatever the heck I spelled. So there we go. So now it's rendering properly. And let's go ahead and copy and paste. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and we will do gravity center horizontal. That'll center it. And maybe, you know, I'm just getting technical at this point, but maybe like a decent size for the text. Something like that will work. So let's go ahead, and now that we have our text view, we're going to need to do it 2 more times. All right, so we'll just copy and paste, and change this to last name. Change this ID to last name, and we'll just change this to name, since that's what it's called inside of the SDK. Name, and looking pretty good now. All right, so that'll do. And yeah, so that's gonna be our placeholders for the values in which we get when we actually log in. So here's remember. Okay, so let's come back to the main activity, guys. And here's where we get called whenever the profile changes. And remember, that's because over here we invoke this method, and then we subscribe to that event, or that we invoke that event, and we subscribe to that event right over here. All right, so and then it calls this guy. So this is basically going to be our listener, and what we want to do is we want to actually, and this is actually handy because it's still in the activity, so we can manipulate all of the text views and stuff that we just created. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go and make some references to the text view. So we'll do mtxt first name, and then we'll do mtxt last name, and then last text view we'll do mtxt name. And then over here we'll do let's move this up, that way they're all bunched together, all the find view by IDs. And let's come up here, we'll do mtxt first name equals find view by ID, cast it to a text view. First name, and then last name. We'll also do the same thing, just a different ID. The IDs that we gave them inside of the AXML, of course. And find view by ID. And then remember that we're just getting some errors right here because we haven't actually compiled it. So it doesn't know that these IDs exist inside of our resources. So once this compiles, these will go away. All right, so now we have a reference to our text views so that we can manipulate them as we wish, which we will do down here when the profile changes. So what we'll do is we'll do mtxt first name, and then we'll do text equals, and then e.profile. And yeah, that'll work. We'll do em profile, which is going to be the current profile. We'll do first name. Because remember and this is the profile that's actually built into the SDK. So what's going to happen is, well, what this profile has, has a lot of stuff that's in it. So this is the last name it has the, the username and, a whole bunch of other different information that we can pull out. So I'm just grabbing these main things, but I mean, if you can look through it, you can get other stuff as long as it's available here. And last but not least, we'll do name. All right, so once that connects, that should update and be ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and verify it for the last time. We'll go ahead and get rid of that code. On success will only get called, remember, when the login happens. If they're already logged in, this should get called indefinitely though. This should get called always because this is whenever the profile changes. All right. And it looks like the last name is not going to be working because of the fact that I probably made another typo over here. So last to name is what I put. So another typo. I'm on a roll, guys. Sorry. Let's try another rebuild here. All right, so that rebuilt good, but what we're going to want to comment, guys, is this is, remember, still using from the Facebook, the login manager Facebook button. So let's go ahead and comment that part out too as well, so we don't get a null reference since we're no longer instantiating the Facebook button. So we're going to want to, let's see, double check everything. And I do see a potential problem, but let's go ahead and run it and make sure that it's not it. If it is a problem, then we'll go ahead and fix it. If it's not, it's fine. It's always good to to see a problem first before you fix it. It's I tend to remember stuff better, and the reason why I do it if you see the reason why and not just tell you, hey, do this. So yeah, so look at first name, last name. So we still have the default values, even though we're obviously logged into the Facebook SDK right now. And the reason why is because this got called too late. So this was instantiated too late before the Facebook SDK initialized. And then what happened was the profile changed, but we weren't listening to the profile yet. So in other words, we just started it and instantiated it too late. So what we want to do is we want to actually instantiate and start tracking the profile immediately after we initialize the SDK. All right. So that should be good. Let's go ahead and, just to be sure, it's kind of always nice to watch this stuff work. Let's go ahead and set a breakpoint on here. And let's go. And one more thing we're going to have to do is probably we might get a null reference exception if we don't check for null here, since if the user logs out, the new profile is actually going to be null, right, since they logged out. And we're not checking for that yet. So we will need to do that. Let's bear that in mind. So we come into here. Looks like it gets called right away because the profile has changed. And then it comes into here. And we can see, if we hover over it, we can see the data coming in. And sure enough, we're looking pretty good. All right, so but now the no reference exception I was talking about will happen here if we log out, and what's going to happen is the profile is not null, of course, the event, but this profile, notice that it's null now, the new profile. So because we've logged out, so the new profile is no longer existent since the user has logged out. So we will get a null reference on here, and if we step over, sure enough. So what we can do is simply check for that. We can just say that we could do something like if em profile does not equal null, then we want to do this stuff right here. Cut and paste that. And then we can even have an else here. You know, if it is null, then they must have logged out. The user must have logged out. So then what we can do is we can just set the default values here. And then we can do something like first name, just some this hard set something. But you know, I hope you get the idea of what's going on here. So you know, you're obviously going to probably want to implement this a different way in your own app. However, you know, the concept stays the same, just to kind of listen in on a log out and then set it to whatever values you really want. I'll just set it back to the normal values that I started with. All right, so we look like we're in pretty good shape here, guys. So that's let's go ahead and do another run through just to make sure that, you know, we're good with logging in, logging out. I don't want to leave you guys on the, you know, I don't want to leave you guys hanging, so give you all these null reference exceptions. So all right, so we want to log in. So we haven't logged in yet, so we'll get, like, you know, some default values. As soon as we log in, our oops, we still got a breakpoint. Make sure those are all gone. Continue. All right, so our stuff gets updated. We'll log out, and everything is working the way we expect it to. So awesome, cool. So you know, this is obviously a really simple example, guys, but I hope you get the concept of, you know, getting the data and just kind of working with it. And the profile tracker is a really handy tool to use, and it's obviously, as you can see, really simple to implement, but it really does a lot for us. And then when we set up an event, we can register it and subscribe to it in different places. So what's nice about that, guys, is the fact that we can register it, you know, in many places. It doesn't just have to be on profile change. We can subscribe to it in another way and do some other stuff with it. Since it is an event, we can subscribe to it multiple times and do what we want when the profile changes. And we can put more stuff in this arguments down here, like the old profile and a whole bunch of other stuff that we really want that we can get from the profiles. All right, so lots of stuff that we can do, and hopefully I'm putting you guys on the right track of using the Facebook SDK and getting some of the data that's coming through with it. All right, so the next video we're going to go over a few other details about the SDK in general, but the core of it, as far as logging in and getting it all set up and getting data across, hopefully now is clear to you guys. And of course, if you have any questions about it, feel free to leave some comments below. Message me if you like, and as always, it's really helpful if you guys like the video. Subscribe to me if you haven't. That always helps. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, yeah, if you guys have any questions, just leave them below. Thanks for watching, guys.